Turns out Angela Rayner doesn't actually have ginger hair. It's just rust coming out from the huge block of iron where her heart should be, oxidising in the feral atmosphere of Parliament.
It's a moment that I know many of us have been waiting for a long time. The turning point when people and places across England finally begin to take back control over the things that matter to them. When our proud towns and cities are given the powers they need to drive growth and raise living standards as part of this government's plan for change.
People on holiday are on holiday. I had a couple of days, but I also say, you know, I take my job incredibly seriously and I carry that job out. I deliver on what I say I'm going to do. In fact, I'm always concerned to make sure that I prove my worth, because people often criticise my background and say, well, is she qualified to do the job? Well, I know that the people of this country deserve.
That wasn't just another political debate, it was an on-air explosion that's still shaking Westminster. Katie Hopkins, known for never holding back, didn't merely criticise Labour, she dismantled them in front of millions. In a blistering takedown of Angela Rayner and the entire Labour Party, Hopkins delivered her attack without filters, without restraint, and without spin. This wasn't the usual back and forth of political theatre, it was a direct assault. She came out swinging and didn't stop until every crack in Labour's weakening foundation was laid bare for all to see.
Other news, Angela Rayner and her ginger norks of porn says that she is going to do away with the relief for individuals who live in their home, 25% of council tax that they owe, and she may also do away with right to buy, which is how she bought her bloody house in the first place. If they take away the relief on council tax, it will hit the elderly hardest, already going to be shivering to death in their homes this winter because they've had their winter fuel allowance taken away. Turns out Angela Rayner doesn't actually have ginger hair. It's just rust coming out from the huge block of iron where her heart should be, oxidising in the feral atmosphere of Parliament.
But this wasn't an emotional outburst or a desperate grab for attention. Hopkins came armed and ready. Armed with evidence, facts, and a delivery as sharp as a scalpel. Every word hit its mark with calculated precision. She didn't falter, she attacked. Piece by piece, she dismantled Labour's narrative, exposing contradictions, calling out hypocrisy, and reviving the uncomfortable truths the party hoped had been forgotten. The effect was immediate and impossible to ignore. This wasn't just heard across the political landscape, it was felt. And for a moment, every eye was fixed on what had just unfolded.
Activity at risk. I'm just saying, do you think you would have a rethink on it?
Well, I think that there was an imbalance, and we spoke to many businesses. They've been working with us to get the employment rights bill forward.
Can you name a company, a few of them, that have welcomed these proposals?
Well, we've worked with many of the companies.
Name a few.
I've worked with so many of them on this. I've had many roundtables, as the business secretary, and they've very much welcomed the work that we've been doing on making sure that people...
You might be able to name a few, because I can name all the companies, the recruitment companies, Hayes, Manpower, Randstad. They've signed the letter saying this is the wrong approach. You're going to put jobs at risk. Which are the companies that have welcomed your employment rights?
Well, like I say, I've spoke to many companies. We've had many roundtables with them and we've been discussing it, and they've acknowledged that there has to be a balance and broadly welcomed it. We've made changes as opposed to, for example, on the probation periods when we listened to what business said. So we have the probation periods as well alongside the balance of rights from day one.
Will you get me a list of those companies and then we can call them and say, do you welcome Angela Rayner's proposals?
Well, there's been many of the companies that we've worked with, like I say, so many.
She didn't just challenge Angela Rayner, she dismantled her completely. Hopkins argued, with blistering clarity, that if Rayner is truly meant to represent the working class, then the working class deserves both an apology and a stronger voice. Because what they currently have, Hopkins claimed, isn't conviction, it's a performance. A press release in human form, repeating pre-approved lines like an actor who's forgotten they've left the stage. But Hopkins didn't stop there. She went deeper, stripping apart Rayner's entire political persona piece by piece. The speeches, the slogans, the polished appearances, all, she said, were recycled and hollow. According to Hopkins, Rayner's public image is a carefully managed illusion, impressive under studio lights, but empty once the cameras stop rolling. No authenticity, no real substance, just political noise, neatly packaged in ambition.
So can I bring you back to my question? What would Labour do?
Well, we've already talked about, I mean, some of the taxation decisions that the government have made around inheritance tax, capital gains tax, corporation tax, where you've given away money. This is what Jeremy was talking about in Prime Minister's question today. You've given away money that actually, quite frankly, we need to spend. And it's not just about an ageing population. That is phony. People know about the ageing population for some time. We've cut the criteria so people can't get community care. We treat our older people at the moment like dogs. It's a disgrace. We shouldn't do that.
But, excuse
we should
me,
be investing and putting the money in the primary care
Would you
services.
reverse the cuts on corporation tax?
I think that the cuts on corporation tax are missing a point because we need that money. We need that money at the moment.
Would you reverse it? Hold on.
Inheritance tax.
Would you reverse them?
I think that at the moment, cutting at a time where we need those services and people need those services is the wrong decision to
But
make.
I'm asking you, would you reverse the cut in corporation tax?
But I'm telling you, Andrew, that our priority is
You're
not...
not telling me the question.
I am. I'm
answer.
saying that the cuts in corporation...
So, can I bring you back to my question? A simple request, yet what followed was anything but straightforward. When pressed on what Labour would actually do policy, not platitudes, the response became a tangle of political rhetoric. There was talk of inheritance tax, capital gains, and corporation tax, vague references to redistribution, but nothing concrete. Then came the emotional hook. We treat our older people like dogs. A striking line, powerful, even true, but ultimately, a diversion. Andrew pressed again, would Labour reverse the cuts to corporation tax? Still, no direct answer. Would Labour undo the Tory tax breaks? Yes or no? Instead, the response drifted into a sermon about priorities. A dance around figures. Another carefully crafted deflection. I'm telling you, Andrew, the cuts are missing the point, came the reply, but in truth, that was the point. It laid bare Labour's deeper weakness, the ability to criticize with passion, but an unwillingness to commit with clarity.
Great, if I could be Prime Minister, I would make it such that people who wanted to make Britain great, they get help to do that, they get free parking, they get reduced taxes, they get whatever incentivises the grafters, the workers, small businesses and wealthy individuals.
It says this speech is about being together. He says to smile, say our and we.
Comrades, my name is Keir Starmer and I'm here to fuck the foundations.
Hopkins didn't merely label Rayner as ineffective, she portrayed her as a political performer. In Hopkins' view, Rayner isn't leading, she's acting. Every word sounds rehearsed, every interview carefully scripted, every appearance meticulously stage managed, not to inspire confidence, but to deflect scrutiny and evade genuine accountability.
Now, I know that people are angry about what's happening in the Middle East, and I said live on TV, and I say to this day, if me resigning as an MP now would bring the ceasefire, I would do it. I would do it. And I'll be honest with you, if Labour get into government, we are limited. I will be honest, I'm not going to promise you, because Biden, who's the US, who has way more influence, has only got limited influence in that. And Qatar, Saudi Arabia, all of these people, we are all working to stop what's happening at the moment. We want to see that. So I promise you that's what we want to see. And if Labour get into power, we will recognise Palestine. I will push not only to recognise, but there is nothing to recognise at the moment, sadly. It's decimated. We have to rebuild Palestine.
Hopkins didn't hesitate, she went straight for the jugular. She accused Rayner of evading responsibility, sidestepping tough questions, and avoiding the uncomfortable truths that any genuine leader should face. For someone who presents herself as the voice of the people, Hopkins argued, the act isn't just disappointing, it's deceptive. But she didn't stop there. Hopkins widened her scope, directing her criticism at the entire Labour Party. What followed was a blistering indictment, a charge that Labour hasn't merely lost direction, but is now drowning in its own hypocrisy, contradictions, and an alarming absence of conviction.
Quick one on rules. Just because there's a sign, it doesn't mean I'm going to do what it says on the sign. So if you happen to be in the proximity of me and a sign Don't feel in any way the need to tell me what's written on the sign, because A, I may have already seen it, B, I willfully disregard it, and C, I'm not going to do what I'm told. Probably not ever. So if you feel the need to tell me that my dogs can't be doing this, or they can't be swimming in with the fish in case they eat the fish, or maybe dogs have to be on a lead from this date to that, or dogs aren't allowed here, or maybe you're supposed to queue up there, or maybe stand there, you've got COVID brain. You so love COVID and telling people what to do, you can't stop it. And I strongly suggest if you see me or someone else, you do try and stop it. You're not the arbiter of right and wrong. Just because you read a bloody sign doesn't mean I'm going to do what it says on the bloody sign. And you may like to have your life limited by other people's rules and regulations. It might make you feel safe. I don't want to feel safe. And for that matter, don't tell me to stay safe. I'd like to feel as risky as possible. I'd like to own that risk, and I'd like to run face forwards towards death if that's what's coming my way. So screw you, screw your signs, and screw your tiny little rules.
She tore into Labour's leadership with the force and precision of a wrecking ball, calling it confused, inconsistent, and dangerously out of touch. Hopkins didn't hold back. She exposed what she described as the deep hypocrisy at the core of the party, one that publicly champions free speech, yet silences anyone who dares to dissent. A party that claims to defend the working class, yet advances policies that undermine the very communities it vows to protect. And when it comes to economic responsibility, Hopkins made her point clear. Labour's grand promises amount to little more than empty rhetoric, while the country continues to slide further into fiscal disorder under their watch.
Breaking news here in batshit bonkers Britain, where Labour have announced that they are the party for business. And you know that because they were in a business when they announced it. Meanwhile, Angela Rayner was in a mosque saying that Labour are the party for Palestinians. So if you're a Palestinian businessman, Labour are 100% the party for you. It also explains why Diane...
And then came the final blow. Hopkins turned her attention to Labour's treatment of pensioners, the very people who built this nation, paid in faithfully for decades, and are now, in her words, discarded like yesterday's news. She accused Labour not merely of policy failure, but of betrayal, a moral collapse at the heart of the party. The same movement that once vowed to protect them now looks the other way, sacrificing the elderly in pursuit of youth votes and favorable headlines. Hopkins didn't just criticize, she dismantled, piece by piece. Her tone was razor sharp, her delivery laced with deliberate sarcasm. There was no room for spin, no room for excuses, only a stark, uncompromising reality check.
You need to be standing up for the right to listen to people who you then go on to decide you do not agree with. Once someone starts to mandate what you can't hear, how narrow, how small is this window going to get? How tiny your space? Your worldview, just how small do you want it to be? I fear for the day that someone gets into this union and starts to know platform speakers, because there will never be a return from that. You are on the precipice. You are on the cusp of something monumental here. When you walk through that door, you can't unwalk that decision.